Hello everyone, welcome again to the channel. Today I have the third lesson of our Gnosis course, and the subject today will be recurrence, free will, and ego. So let's get started. First of all, we need to understand what is the concept of free will. So it is when we can do whatever we set ourselves to do. We can accomplish all our goals, pursue our interests, we achieve consistent results, we are persistent in all our endeavors, we decide freely what we want, and we can do all our mental resources, emotional resources, material, everything that is our disposal, and we can work diligently towards our objectives, and every day we feel good about ourselves. We're quite content, we're satisfied, we're happy with the results. Our life is a constant string of victories in every area of our lives. So it's how they say, it's like a paradise, living in paradise. We are advancing constantly, we are growing, we're improving ourselves, we are our own best friend and ally. This is an ideal situation, but being honest with each of us, we can see that most of us were very far from this. So this is the ideal that we will want to accomplish. And then we have the recurrence. The recurrence is somehow the opposite pole of the situation, where most of humanity we find ourselves in this situation. We can rarely do anything we want. We can accomplish our goals nor pursue our interests. We see very inconsistent results. We lack persistence. Every day we struggle to do something positive or make any real change to our routine. We feel overwhelmed by the feeling that we lack control over our lives. And being honest, not everything depends on ourselves, but those things that depend on ourselves, even those things we cannot do. We are fighting constantly up against our own ego, and we see the constant repetition of events, circumstances, problems without the ability to stop it. We feel frustrated, dissatisfied, angry, and resentful. We think that life has no meaning and appears as if we're slaves to our own circumstances. So sadly, this is the most common occurrence in everyone's life. And all of this happens because of the ego, our ego, our very own ego that we seem to love so much, But what is the reason for this, The reason for all this repetition, for all this recurrence, is because, like we saw in the previous conferences or previous lessons, the fact is that we have the consciousness and the ego, but the ego is only a part of our own consciousness, but it is under certain conditions and is unable to get out of this box. No, it's like inside a box or inside a bottle and cannot get out. So that's why it is related only to a specific memory. So that's why the ego or each ego, because we don't have just one, we have multiple egos. This is the thesis of the Gnosis, that we have a multiplicity of egos inside of us. So each ego has its own memory. Each ego is trying to repeat what he knows, trying to repeat what brought him to existence in a way. So he will always do the same things. That's why he's boring, he doesn't know anything else other than his own desires. He's very selfish, of course, because the ego doesn't care about you. No, the ego only cares about fulfilling his own objectives, and this is the reason why we say that there is a lot of ignorance, because the ego doesn't know anything. The ego lives inside the box And the ego doesn't know that there are other egos. The ego doesn't know that there is consciousness, only lives for himself, only lives for the day, is constantly reacting to circumstances, and is trying to continue doing the same things over and over. Now that's why we have this feeling of frustration, depression, sadness, aggression, and inaction, because we feel like there is no way out, and it is true. If we continue with the ego in our lives, this is exactly what we will experience. So what is the solution that the Gnosis is proposing? So we are proposing to awake our consciousness. And how are we going to do this? First of all, we are going to do the practice of self-awareness. So the practice of self-awareness, it will help us to have some kind of inventory of our own selves. We need to know ourselves. So we need to know every aspect of ourselves, and we need to study ourselves, really, because we don't pay attention usually. So we need to start paying attention to what are we thinking, what are we feeling in every moment in our lives, because we have this big treasure chest inside ourselves. We really don't know ourselves. We complain about our lives, but sometimes we don't even know what we think. We don't know what we want. We don't know what are our emotional states. Sometimes even we just go mechanically through the day, like some kind of robot. We don't even pay attention to what we're looking at. We don't pay attention to our feelings, to our emotional state. So we need to stop the distraction, becoming distracted with our own selves, and we need to stop the process of self-deception. Because if we think that the ego is ourselves, our real self, this is where is the deception. We are more than the ego, we are the consciousness. But because we have been accustomed to living with the ego for so long, we don't know anything else. But even this is like a routine. If it is what we do every day, we still ignore a lot. So this is the practice that we're going to recommend. Remember, this is a process. We cannot accomplish this in a single day or in a single month, week. It's a work that we need to do every day for the duration of our lives. But this is going to help us stop this recurrence. A lot of people, worry about past lives. For example, they say, okay, I wonder, I have some curiosity, what will my past life have been? Well, the Gnosis has this thesis that yes, the same as we see every day coming in the exact same way as the previous day, and we see this repetition of events, we rarely change anything. So if you are curious about your past life was exactly like this life. That's why it's called recurrence. So we repeat everything again. But why we repeat everything again? Because we have the same egos, and the egos want the same things. So you will never find yourself doing different things, because you have exactly the same egos, the same desires, the same inclinations, the same routines, and everything, is exactly the same. Your life, your current life, is exactly the life you had the previous time. Nothing changed, and if you and we don't change anything, next life will be exactly like this life. So there is no point even in committing suicide, because you are maybe frustrated with your life, and you say, okay, it's better to end my life. Well, there is no point in ending your life, because next life will be exactly like this one, plus the karma and dharma that we create in this life. So because of this mechanic process, usually, and remember, because of the entropy, every life is actually a little bit worse than the previous life. Rarely we will see progress from one life to the next unless we are working on ourselves. So this is the thesis of the Gnosis. We want to be able to change in according to our own capacity, but we can increase this capacity with the wisdom that we find within ourselves. Even just knowing ourselves deeply, even if we are not, still working with all the tools that we need to awake our consciousness, knowing ourselves a little bit, being able to observe ourselves, to know ourselves, even our own negativity. We don't know our negativity in detail. We should be able to have like a master degree in our own psychology. We should be able to know exactly what is inside our mind, what are all our desires, why we do things in a certain way, why we want this. We should be able even to predict some kind of reaction. We should be able to know, oh, this circumstance is coming, I know this desire is coming, and we will have maybe some explanation to why we cannot succeed in life. So we need to know the enemy. It's like we need to defeat the enemy, but before we defeat the enemy, we need to know the enemy. Right in this moment, we don't know ourselves well enough to even know who the enemy is. It's our own self, it's a part of our own psyches, but we need to know it in detail. So this is what we want to accomplish, and the practice that we want to recommend for this lesson, because I want to make every lesson a little bit practical. So the practice that we are recommending for this lesson is pay attention to your own self. So pay attention to your thoughts, pay attention to your feelings, sensations, desires, emotional state. Pay attention to everything you do and try to avoid becoming identified with your own self. Try to become a little bit detached from yourself and try to become an observer rather than the actor of your own life. So when you start doing this, you will discover different things that you never saw before. So this is a very good practice, and it's a practice that we recommend doing every day. Of course, nobody's perfect, remember that, but it is okay. Everyone starts in some place. You cannot start before, you cannot start after, you need to start today. So this is the content of this lesson. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section. And as always, I want to remind you about the opportunity to help me support my work as content creator. In the description of each episode, I include information about different platforms you can use to support my work with donations if you want to. You can also help me liking, sharing this episode in social media, and subscribing. I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you for watching.